Hi friends, welcome to the NPTEL course Strategy and Technology, a Practical Primer. We are in week 11 with the theme of Technology and Business. In this lecture, the 54th in the series, we discuss the topic of innovation strategy and process. Innovation is at the core of all scientific and technological development as well as socio-economic development. In this lecture, we consider several strategies and processes that firms must adopt to institutionalize innovation in their companies. Innovation for the purpose of this lecture will include differentiation as well as significant incremental innovation. Not all innovation will be or need to be transformational. Good innovation can also emerge from incremental and adjacent innovation. Innovation again is not just a strategic or process issue. It is an issue of mindset. It is a cultural issue. Innovation needs to be in the DNA of the company. Innovation need not be only scientific or technological. Managerial and leadership innovation is also very important, and so is business strategy and business model innovation. Companies need to develop and institutionalize a strategic approach to make innovation an integral part of strategy formulation and strategy execution. The inception, development, and growth of several pioneering firms and such pioneering industries has been attributable to innovation and nothing else. We have earlier considered the product market matrix. We said that there could be 4 types of product market configurations. 1. Existing products serving existing markets. 2nd. New products serving existing markets. 3rd. Existing products serving new markets. And 4th, and the most important for innovation, new products serving new markets. In fact, new products creating new markets. To correspond to this, we have 3 frameworks of innovation. The first is incremental innovation. That supports the most commonplace configuration of existing products and existing markets. And within this, when we consider incremental innovation for the purpose of this lecture, we are looking at innovation that is incremental yet impactful. The second one, which is diagonally higher than the existing product market configuration, is the transformational innovation that will enable radically new products that will transform markets and industries. To correspond to the existing product new market configuration and new product and existing market configuration, we have adjacent innovation. That adjacency could be either in product or in market in terms of the innovation base as well as the innovation impact. What is the object or purpose of innovation? Innovation is not just industry. Innovation is also not just in terms of doing something different for earning money. Innovation can happen in any domain and in any manner. We are all familiar with product innovation. We see that happening all around us. But services such as telecommunications services or the way a business is delivered to a customer has also been the source and the base of innovation. That's called service innovation. Business models are reinvented, sometimes digitally, such as food delivery, having laundry service picked up. These are all business model innovations. When manufacturing process becomes elegant or more scientific, and when the tolerances and fits are upgraded, you get better product, and that leads to differentiation in the product. But the manufacturing process is at the core of that innovation. Similarly, when the manufacturing process leads to higher productivity, higher throughput, it reduces the cost of the product, and that is going to lead to cost leadership, again reflected in the product innovation. But the core for these 2 approaches has been process and technology innovation. We can also have organizational innovation. That is, you are able to do what was done with 1,000 people with just, let's say, 500 people. Or we have redesigned our organizational structure in such a manner that we are able to do multiple businesses within the same managerial and leadership bandwidth. Social innovation. Not all innovation should be only commercial. It should be social as well, such as deploying technology to be able to create most important resources such as education, sanitary services, water services, indigent areas of the country or for indigent levels of population. That is great social innovation. Many startups are engaged in social innovation. And environmental innovation is again one of the most important areas of innovation going forward. We need to deploy innovation to protect our environment, conserve our resources, recycle our materials, reuse products wherever feasible. These are the general objects of innovation. How does innovation impact an economy? There are two dimensions to that. One, technology itself can be new, and that newness can be low or very high. Impact on the market could be again low or high. Suppose the technology we are developing is not of such radical dimension, but is merely one of incrementalism enhancing nature, and the impact of the market correspondingly is not very high. We can say that the innovation impact is one of enhancing variety. That is, there will be gradual continuous improvement on existing products and services. Note that this corresponds to the existing product, existing market grid. Let's say technology is high, but impact on the market is not dramatic. We can call this a reconfiguring nature of innovation. It alters the way a product is offered. It alters the way in which a product is utilized. We can look at the change from telex machine to facsimile machine as a technological breakthrough, because we didn't have to type anything. We just had to place a paper and that would get transmitted after scanning through telecommunication network. It was more instantaneous compared to the telex transmission, and also it enabled more companies to do more of such transmission. So it was a kind of technological breakthrough. It transformed the industry in the sense that the communication equipment industry has been transformed from telex machines to facsimile machines. It didn't create a new market segment per se, but at least it expanded the market segment with many more customers using the facsimile. And when the facsimile machines became all-in-one, that is capable of photocopying, capable of Bluetooth transmission, etc., the market further expanded. So reconfiguring, which takes place with the newness of technology, has an impact on the market which is certainly higher than the enhancing level which we have considered earlier. Let's say there is technology which is not really of that nature, but there is a significant improvement. What we talked about earlier, the adjacent innovation, impactful incremental innovation, in which case the market will get revitalized. If we have, let's say, a fitness band, and it could earlier only talk about providing steps, but it has been expanded to cover more number of vitals, that market of health companionship has been revitalized. Technology has not been greatly upgraded, but the displays have been improved. There has been better companionship for the health seekers. This results in a significant improvement in a product, and it aims to grow the market substantially. And finally, where the technology is very high in terms of its newness and the impact on market correspondingly is very high. That is the transformational impact. It is a technology or new business model that disrupts the existing market and the existing industry. We can consider one framework of innovation. We will consider other frameworks also as we go. It is a kind of innovation value chain which we are considering. While we have talked about several innovations, for-profit model is one of the most widely used framework for innovation, because people would like to generate wealth out of the innovation to reintroduce that wealth in the manufacturing value chain or innovation value chain or even social value chain. So there is a profit model that is driving the innovation framework. And the idea of the profit model is that it should earn profits based on the experience that the customer would get. That is at the right extreme. Now this profit model is configured along with three other aspects of innovation. The second aspect of the profit model itself being the first one, is the network. You cannot do something all by yourself. You need, as a firm, a network of supportive entities that can make the product work on its innovation path. I have talked about certain examples of pioneering innovations that have taken place but failed because the supporting ecosystem was also not innovated simultaneously. So network is very important. It connects you to others and creates value. And to be able to deliver, we need an industry structure or an innovation structure. And that is the third aspect. And the fourth aspect is the process by which you undertake your innovation. Every company will have its own signature process or superior method of innovation. These four are the configuration related aspects of an innovation framework. Then we come to the product itself. There are two aspects of the product. One, the product performance, that is the distinguishing features and functionality of the product, such as a connected automobile or an autonomous automobile. However, that system will not work unless the traffic lights are synchronized, they have the ability to communicate or to be communicated with, or through the Internet of Things we are able to connect with various animate and inanimate objects which are on the road and traffic system. So we need system which is enveloping the product for the offering to be successful. This is the second aspect of the innovation framework. And the third but very important aspect is the experience aspect of innovation. What is the service support we are providing for the new product system? What is the channel through which we are marketing or offering the product or service to the customers and end users? What is the kind of brand that we have been able to create around the new product system offering? And finally, how are we engaging with the customer, and what is the experience that the customer is gaining from the new innovative product? And the experience structure is very important, because that experience structure comprising the service methodology, channel partnership, the brand equity and the customer experience determines how curious and how committed and how interested the customers are to take on the new innovation product or service in their overall ecosystem. That is important. Another important thing is that this builds loyalty. The experience part of the framework builds loyalty. Several companies may offer smartphones, but they are loyalists of Apple. Similarly, even when new cars of electric nature come in, Tesla will have its loyal following, because the experience has been created and it's being valued by the customer. This is one innovation framework that will be very valuable for you as you undertake innovation projects in your companies. We talked about product, process and business innovation. Drivers of product innovation are technological advancements, changes in customer requirements, or simply an outdated product design that needs to be substituted by a newer product design. Product innovations are the ones which are the most visible amongst various classifications of innovation, and it clearly leads to a greater demand for a product provided all the other parameters are in synchronization. Manufacturing innovation or process innovation is not visible, but nevertheless it influences the product like nothing else. Changes in equipment and technologies used for products and in services determines the effectiveness of the products and services. It is not as visible as the product innovation, but it is very much experienced when it is achieved in the hands of the people. As I said, lower tolerances and higher quality specifications enable a customer appreciate the product as being more elegant and more quality oriented. And the third is the business innovation. Business model innovation does not necessarily imply a change in the product or in the production process, but it implies certainly a way in which it is brought into the market. Customers derive better value and satisfaction through such improvements. We have seen the food delivery companies, Swiggy, then we had Zomato, and they have returned the business model in favor of the customer by bringing the food direct to the customer homes beyond what we think are the usual dining hours or eating hours. And in COVID times, that has been a great source of ensuring the viability of restaurants and also the taste satisfaction or the food requirements of the public. That is an innovation in business model through digital support. But they have seen that when they are doing it, they can do many other things. So they have diversified into supplying groceries. Having diversified into supply of groceries, they have understood that they are competing with others such as Big Basket or Big Bazaar. So they needed to have a USP. So they came up with a USP saying that I will supply anything within 10 minutes. How does that happen? Because they are creating dark warehouses. That is, warehouses which have very regular relationships with the basic suppliers of products, and those are stocked in the warehouses that the new delivery companies or the modified delivery companies have, and they are able to meet the requirements within 10 minutes. So it is a kind of unseen business model innovation that has taken place. So going to restaurant and eating food, to getting food delivered at home, to delivering groceries at home, to delivering groceries within 10 minutes, it represents a value chain of continuous business innovation. And products haven't changed and the services haven't changed, but the way the business is performed, the way the service has performed, has resulted in a new business or new business model. But the real innovations are the ones which are making fundamental impact on products. When the cell phone industry was booming, cell phone makers were generally having plastic bodies, and they were at their wits' end as to how to protect this plastic, because plastic was liable for breakage whenever the phone fell down. And more dangerously, the display itself, the costliest piece of the phone, was going to break. So Corning was a company which was very much into the art and science of making beautiful glass. So a small team in the specialty materials division of Corning Inc. began working on the technological challenge of protecting the glass. That is, they are not going to add anything beyond, but the glass itself will be made sturdier. The team dug out of the company's archives the formula for a super strong but flexible glass called Chemcar, which Corning had unsuccessfully attempted to introduce in 1962 for automobile windshields, and sought to test this for cell phones. But just producing an experimental batch was slated to cost as much as $300,000 at that time, enough for the division to miss the budget target for the year. However, the team leader was persistent, and the persistence paid off, and the leadership vision in supporting the development also paid off. Today, on the market, Corning cell phone glass, now known as Gorilla Glass, is a huge success, and practically every cell phone has Gorilla Glass, and several generations of Gorilla Glass have come about. You cannot imagine today a smartphone display without Gorilla Glass by Corning. It became totally identified. So imagine that one single product is powering a whole range of products from a different industry. And there are 5 gates to innovation that have happened at Corning over the decades that has supported this type of innovation. The first is that the entire innovation is stage gated. Second, it is multidisciplinary. It is not done just by R&D laboratory, but is done by several departments together. Third, it has a very good governance structure. That is, it has broad oversight, detailed oversight, and also micro project management. It is integrated end to end. Unless the result is in sight and the result is achieved, the project doesn't rest. And execution is the 5th important aspect of the Corning innovation process. To happen this way, it also required certain institutional support. It had a corporate technology council. It continues to have that, which is to screen and support early stage ideas. And once these early stage ideas are screened and signed off, they go to a growth and strategy council, because those ideas are going to become mainstream innovations at the company. Together, all these institutional structures and business processes enabled Corning to be at the peak of its innovation at all times. I also mentioned earlier that an innovator's DNA is different. Innovative entrepreneurs have something called creative intelligence, which enables discovery yet differs from other types of intelligence. Multiple intelligences we know are existing in individuals. One is the normal intelligence, mathematical intelligence, scientific intelligence, emotional intelligence, cognitive intelligence, etc. But innovator's DNA is something that is very unique. It is more than a cognitive skill. It is also more than being just right-brained. It engages both sides of the brain because they leverage 5 discovery skills to create new ideas. First discovery skill is associating. That is the ability to successfully connect seemingly unrelated questions, problems or ideas from different fields. When you encounter a problem in one aspect of the product, you connect something which cannot be connected at the first place and then try to link. Similarly, you feel that if this problem has been solved in this method in another product, why not I use this? So ability to associate what cannot be associated at first look, that is connecting the dots beyond what you are seeing as a connectable paradigm. Discovery skill 2 is questioning, that is keep challenging assumptions. Why should anything be in this manner? Why should you receive sound waves in a mic only in a particular direction? Why can't you have a 360-degree receipt? What are the pros and cons? Can you convert that from 360 degrees to 180-degree receipt? So you keep questioning yourself. And to be able to question, you also need to observe something. That is the discovery skill 3. By observing how a particular action is being taken or not being taken, you can get beautiful business ideas. Common phenomena can lead to uncommon pioneering developments. Discovery skill 4 is experimenting. You should be willing to put your ideas into prototypes. If you don't want to do that and want to either go into mainstream production directly, or you feel that the idea is worth pursuing further, you are not really a true discovery scientist. Experimentation is at the core of converting a discovery idea into a tangible product. And finally, the networking. Discovery skill 5 requires networking. No individual is superhuman and no individual is going to be able to provide a complete solution. If Thomas Edison gave the incandescent bulb, he gave it because he was able to network with the filament making, with the glass, with the internal gas system, and the way it can be plugged into an electric system. So networking is important. From that basic evidence of networking, we have today even more complex networking requirements, be it the electric vehicle, the hydrogen vehicle or the renewable energy. Networking is at the core. And to be able to do that, discovery scientists cannot be cocooned, they cannot be introverted. In fact, they have to be the opposite. They should have the ability and willingness and aptitude to meet people of different kinds of ideas and perspectives and extend their knowledge domains. When we say that discovery scientists and technologists or even leaders should have a particular intelligence, that stems from a mindset. Mindset can be trained. Intelligence may be somewhat native and accumulated over our years of education and experience, but the mindset we tend to display can be modified. So it is important to look at technology mindset matrix. We can have a mindset which is comfortable with whatever is happening. We can also have a mindset that always wants to change the way things are done. And to be able to do that, we may use an existing technology, we may use a new technology. If you are dependent on your existing mindset and you want to do only with the existing platform technology, you will end up doing incremental innovation. Nothing bad about it. Many companies do that, but that is what it is. That is incremental innovation. On the other hand, you want to change things. You want to have a new mindset, but still you want to use the existing technology. You want to do some kind of radical change, but you are constrained by the level of technology you have. It is a mindset radical, but not action or innovation action that is radical. On the other hand, you have new technology at your hand, but you want to do it the same way as you have been conducting the deployment of the new technology or the way you have been conducting your business. So again, you have radical technology in your hand, but the market application has not been very different. So it is a radical technological innovation, but limited in impact. Certainly, compared to incremental innovation, these two, technology driven and mindset driven innovations, are helpful. And finally, you have revolutionary innovation, when the new mindset is combined with new technology. So this is another way of representing the impact of innovation, but combining it with the mindset that a leader or a scientist may have. Let us look at some very influential innovations that will give us some perspective on how many of the things which we discussed so far are relevant. The ATM, the automatic teller machine, that is cash dispenser, that is available in all banking institutions as well as in select points outside, came into being as early as in the 1960s. But the problem then was that they dispensed only predetermined amounts of money and they were not networked to computers. In the 1970s, however, after the magnetic stripe swipe card came in, that is the credit card kind of thing what you see, or the debit card, and when the machines got networked to computers, the use of ATMs expanded quickly because everything could be monitored through a central computer and the ATMs refilled as required based on the demand. The DNA testing and sequencing, as another example, was available as a technology in the late 1970s. In the 1990s, the US government organized the Human Genome Mapping exercise. This effort to identify the 20,000 to 25,000 genes in human DNA was completed as early as in 2003. It led to great advancements in the research of and treatment of genetic diseases. But CRISPR took several years thereafter to get into being as one of the most impactful genomic and genetic disease treating tool. So it takes years. Energy and communications. Electric cars were there in various configurations since the 1920s, but the green movement hasn't their development and adoption. Tesla Motors was founded in 2003 and it took 5 years to unveil its electric car. But the electric car as a concept has been there from 1920s. So the 5 skills of discovery were present in Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla. That's why he could bring the electric car into commercial production, volume production, when nobody else thought about it. Energy and communications, fiber optics. Fiber optics as a science was there from the 1800s, but in 1970s, the quality of optical fibers improved enough to allow its use in communication applications. But with the arrival of the advanced generation telecommunication network, fiber optics came into being in a much more impactful way in the 1990s and 2000s onwards. Laparoscopy. It was a minimally invasive surgery, first discovered in 1987, and the first biopsies were performed as early as in 1985. But later on, it was discovered that lasers could be used to cut organic tissue, and that led to diversification and deepening of laparoscopy for many other purposes beyond what was originally conceived. Photovoltaic solar energy. It came into being as a response to the oil embargo and energy crisis of the 1970s. Today, there are many commercial solar power plants and every nation has got a mega gigawatt target for the solar energy. Barcodes and scanners. The first barcode was there in 1950 and the general use started only in 1960s. In the 1970s, a barcode standard UPC was developed and the use of barcode exponentially expanded. They are now a standard and they have a lot of implications in end-to-end connectivity of a product. IEEE 802.16, it is a standard for antenna and it can transmit internet access up to a 30-mile radius at speeds comparable to DSL or cable broadband. This standard is an example that innovation often comes when a standard is also published. Innovation, when it is random, may have only diffused impact. On the other hand, when innovation is directed with a goal of Manufacturing standardization, product standardization, or feature standardization can in fact trigger innovation of a higher standard. This standard for antenna is one example. Biofuels is another innovation. Today we are talking about 20% ethanol mix in petrol. That has happened because biofuels were getting tested from the 1990s in the automobile industry. Technology of cell phones. One form or the other of cell phone was available in 1970s, but only in 1983 Motorola introduced the first widely held handheld cell phone. And with today's cell phones, what we are able to do and what we can do in future is very evident. It is one of the most breathtaking innovations that has happened in industrial life. GPS is another very important aspect of technology. The first satellite in modern Navstar global positioning system was launched in 1978. But the precursor transit was developed as early as in the 1960s. However, only in 2000 we got permission of use of GPS in non-military applications. That led to an exponential growth in application of GPS. This was also accompanied by an exponential growth in mapping and of course the entry of Google into mapping the world. Technology, that is online shopping, e-commerce, you are personally experienced in that. It started in the 1960s and 70s, gathered speed in the 1980s, but whatever that was starting as electronic mail quickly became a business movement and became electronic commerce, so that consumers are connected universally with companies which offer electronic commerce. That has since become mobile commerce. Innovation has certain myths surrounding that. We have to understand that innovation is also evolution. It is not just one day's brilliance. It requires continuous process, continuous effort. Some innovations can be incremental, but some others can be transformation. It is a continuous development loop and it doesn't have any end as it is. Whether it is iPhone, Netflix or Salesforce, the truth is that each was developed through certain evolutionary processes into the powerhouse that they became later. Many early innovators or disruptors may also not be successful, but that should not stop innovation, because innovation is a journey and not a destination. Breakthroughs that are incremental or transformative are not ends in themselves. So it is essential to keep building on one success after another in a continuous evolution and reinvention. And even if there is a failure, we should build on the learning from the failure and move on to the next phase of success. When you look at innovation and the types of companies we have, there are three types of companies. One type of company is a company that seeks the need. It tries to understand, it tries to visualize what a customer may need, what a society may need in future, and also visualize what its own technological capabilities may offer as a product for the new need. So these are the need seekers. They visualize something for the future, known and unknown, provide that product through innovation. The others are structured companies. They read the market very well. They create value by incrementally improving on products that have already been proven in the market. Samsung. Some others are technology drivers. They get the core technology for the first time and then create a new business and new industry around them. Google, through its search, became that kind of company. As I said, all innovation need not be only technological and scientific. It could be management as well. Ford Motors' introduction of the moving assembly line in 1913 is a management innovation. Western Electric's invention of statistical quality control as a shop floor methodology in 1924 was a management innovation. The operations and quality revolution by Toyota Motor and other Japanese companies in 1945, again a contemporary innovation even to date. P&G's brand evolution is a market innovation, that is localizing the brands, having adaptability to the local ambient atmosphere in the marketplace is a P&G innovation. The ISO quality standards and Motorola's Six Sigma methodology are also management innovations. They were introduced in 1987. So when you have a new management practice, process or structure that represents a significant departure from current norms, there will be resistance. The ability to overcome that resistance is also part of management innovation. We have to understand the kind of management innovations that have happened in the past so that we can develop newer ones. At one point of time, machining products only through machining center was the innovation that was available in the manufacturing shop floor. But then flexible machining centers came. Then flexible workspaces came. That is, a product can go through a unitized operation so that many things can be performed simultaneously. An engine of 6 bores can be manufactured in a unitized operation, as would be a 4-board engine or a 2-board engine. So there is a great flexibility as to how you manufacture your machines. And the next phase, as we discussed earlier, could be that there won't be any machining, everything will be additive manufacturing. So these are technological innovations in a sense, but there are more management innovation that is also ingrained in this. Some of those innovations work, some may not work. And over time, management innovation can be imitated by other companies, just as technical innovation can be imitated or differentiated. But when you do it something ground up, it becomes the organizational credo, the cultural facet, and it becomes difficult for others to do it to the same level of expertise and capability as the pioneer has done. Toyota Motor Corp's lean production system and Procter & Gamble's brand management model are two such evidences. Other Japanese companies and even Korean companies follow lean production and several other aspects of TPS, but only Toyota does it to the best possible extent. Again, that's because TPS was not a destination, it was a journey. Toyota continued to innovate both digitally and non-digitally in making TPS even more effective. So management innovation also cannot rest on its laurels. Management innovation is important because it makes the companies stand out from the rest. General Electric brought consistency, stability and structure to the process of industrial research, and therefore it could win in the first half of 1900s many patents, and far more than anybody else in the corporate America. GE's technology drove its business diversification growth principally because it could innovate continuously with structural strength for innovation. That is the management innovation, ability to be creative but at the same time goal driven and focused. Similarly, Visa, the credit card, debit card platform, is an alliance. The founder banks formed a consortium in the United States in the early 1970s, and now it has become a global financial web that links more than 21,000 financial institutions and more than 1.3 billion cardholders. Will this be shaken by crypto coins? We have to wait and watch. Or whether Visa will have more digital enhancements or greater innovation to make it sustain itself. That's where the management innovation would matter. DuPont played a pioneering role in bringing safety to the top of people's mind. DuPont also made a lot of impact in terms of understanding and implementing capital budgeting frameworks. So comparison of performance of numerous product departments on multiple parameters of return on investment and return on safety was DuPont's contribution to management. Procter & Gamble's preeminence in the packaged goods industry had its roots in the early 1930s when it started formalizing its approach towards brand management and category verticals. Linux is a great management institution. Core technology of coding, but it has democratized code development. It has made virtual coding possible. It has made open source development possible, and it has emerged as one of the easily licensed or public licensed online collaboration tool across the world. And it has brought out the importance of open source collaboration on a number of domains. When there is a crisis, what will happen? Will innovation falter or will innovation enhance? The way the world has responded to COVID-19 crisis with new products and services underlines that innovation will actually amplify in crisis. Four things happen when innovation has a crisis staring at it. There will be unimaginable unity around a purpose. During a crisis, there will be a massive spike in the motivational energy present in the workforce. Leaders who can channel the energy towards a purposeful mission will be able to channel their innovation towards achieving unexpected results. Second, we see the entire system differently. We see an organization in terms of the departments, in terms of the roles, in terms of the individual responsibilities. In fact, we see the organization as a solid ossified structure which cannot be easily modified. But when a crisis hits, we are forced to confront the truth that systems have to only work to support a goal, but not as an end in itself. So a questioning approach starts developing, a collaborative approach starts developing, and the limits of the system will be pushed back further, and a new system even may be developed to be able to cope with the crisis. It also will unfreeze the organization. The entire organization will become fluidic, and there will be massive amount of collaborative energy that is generated, and that leads to newer innovation. Only because of that, automobile companies could develop ventilators, textile companies could develop antiviral masks, or startups could provide healthcare monitoring through the cellular telephony and other healthcare applications. So organizations become agile, adaptive and flexible and become one organization rather than multiple siloed departments. And there will be a bias towards action because the innovators, when faced with crisis, know that they have to deliver. Whether it is an MSME making a very unique sanitizer in record time or a big company trying to do a test kit, the approach is the same. In fact, the innovation spirit in the face of a crisis doesn't distinguish between a small company or a large company. Many companies came up with masks far ahead of the established majors such as Van Heusen or Ramraj. It took months for the bigger companies to come because they have not been shaken by the crisis as much as others have been shaken. People saw opportunity and they became one organization quickly and provided solutions. So to implement innovation effectively, we need to look at 5 steps. 1, we have to spot opportunities, and opportunities will occur when we keep observing and questioning. The second is to prioritize opportunities. When you have an open mind and when you have fluid thinking, definitely you can find many problems and many solutions. And for each problem, you may have multiple solutions. But important thing in an organizational or business setting is to prioritize. You have to use your experience, you have to use your knowledge to understand which deserves what kind of attention. Then you have to experiment and test your potential innovations. Without experimentation, no innovation should cross the bar to reach the market. That's why every R&D laboratory will have a pilot laboratory to test the concept at the laboratory level itself. Then you have a pilot plant, and finally only the manufacturing plant comes in. And innovation doesn't happen without support of each and every individual who is related or networked to the innovation requirement. Therefore, advocacy is a key aspect of innovation. It doesn't happen just because you wanted it to happen. It happens only because you have been able to advocate it to everybody else in the organization. And the 5th step is to keep learning from mistakes. We talked about the stage gating process. The stage gates are to help us to learn from the mistake, provide a quick feedback loop, and go back and see how we can do. When you develop a drug with a particular medicinal chemistry objective in mind, and when you test that in biological screen in vitro, that is in kind of some petri dish testing, you find that it is not having the quick action. You learn from the mistake. Had I done this structure in this way, probably this would have had this impact. And keep modifying your medicinal chemistry structures so that you achieve. Similarly, After such testing, if the project is not really yielding the right results, then you have to junk that project and use your budgets and resources on more profitable and better prioritized projects. These are the 5 steps. Let's now discuss the TRIZ method of problem solving. This is a creative problem solving technique developed by engineer and scientist Genrikh Alterler and his colleagues in the former USSR. It is based on the proposition that every problem and a corresponding solution can be found repeated across industries. It is an open source repository of 40 principles or problems or 76 standard solutions, which can be applied effectively in any domain, more particularly in creative domains of engineering, technology, and problem solving. It has 4 steps. Step 1 involves defining the problem as seen, experienced, or perceived. Step 2 is to find the TRIZ generalized problem. Step 3 is to find the generalized solution to solve the problem. And step 4 is using the identified solution to resolve your problem. There are several methods of innovation, several methods of creativity. I brought this up for you to appreciate that innovation can be structured and proceeded in a principled and methodical manner to arrive at desired results, apart from it being random, apart from it being serendipitous. That is important to note. Innovation in business again is shown in terms of the amazing successes of companies. Amazon is an example of e-commerce, and its success needs no further mention. However, it also has been having certain insightful activities internally. It has an open innovation initiative that reap the benefits of both incremental and disruptive methodologies, and that is based on customer feedback. Ability to turn customer feedback into novel innovations has been the forte of Amazon. Samsung also believes in the use of open innovation and corporate technology scouting opportunities. Whenever a product is released, all the feedback is fed into a TRIZ kind of system, and the innovations are developed out of those feedback mechanisms and the solutions thereof. Nestle adopted the Q Markets innovation software to launch a global innovation accelerator, and that helped Nestle employees to collaborate and provide solutions for various business challenges, unhindered by the divisions that occurred globally. Ford also had a similar initiative, engage employees on a variety of innovation projects. It called it the idea as the Idea Space Innovation Accelerator. It was also powered by Q Markets in terms of its innovation management software. It allows the company or individual leaders to provide challenges to a select group of participants and have the responses received. You have seen lots of discussion. You have experienced lots of examples in terms of our strategic innovation approach so far. How does this differ from the traditional approach? In the traditional innovation approach, we see the future in terms of present. That is, it emphasizes linearity. Therefore, it is more of an incremental innovation approach. In a strategic innovation approach, you want a future. You may be visualizing it, you may be imagining it, but that is the future you have imagined, and you want to start from that. That is the starting point. Traditional innovation follows a structured innovation framework. One of that has been discussed only a few minutes earlier. Whereas strategic innovation follows both structured and unstructured frameworks. Traditional innovation approach works within the boundary. As we have seen, existing products and existing markets are existing products with new markets or new products with existing products. Therefore, business boundaries or product boundaries are established. Strategic innovation is more like a transformation innovation, new products as well as new markets. So new boundaries and categories are set, and the two by exploration. Traditional innovation focuses on incremental innovation or sustaining innovation, whereas strategic innovation looks through breakthrough possibilities. Inputs for the traditional innovation approach come from traditional sources as well as adjunct domains, whereas strategic innovation seeks inspiration from any domain, even an unrelated domain. Traditional innovation articulates consumer needs, which are already known or which are expressed, whereas strategic innovation tries to discover the latent needs. Traditional innovation is technology driven, whereas strategic innovation is enabled by technology. Enablement versus getting driven. Traditional innovation looks at customer satisfaction, whereas strategic innovation looks at creating a whole new customer experience. Traditional innovation at times may have a one-size-fits-all organizational model, whereas strategic innovation will experiment with number of entrepreneurial organizational structures and processes. This is not to say that traditional innovation is not so good and strategic innovation alone is good. Both are required and both need to be combined whenever it is possible to do that. There are 7 dimensions and 7 pillars of strategic innovation. These 7 dimensions are knowledge, passion, resources, sponsorship, leadership, culture, rewards and recognition. That is, every innovation project or an innovation idea must be based on knowledge, based on prior art, as well as certain physical principles, chemical principles, mechanical principles, in short, scientific and technological principles as to why that innovation should be considered. Similarly, management innovations as to why it could be successful. So there is knowledge. But that knowledge will be complete only when experimentation is done on the project. So there is an a priori knowledge which must exist. And we should not think that is the whole knowledge. That is number 1. Number 2, innovation requires patience and persistence and passion. Without passion, innovation cannot happen. Third, it requires resources. We many times mistake that the entire budget must be available before innovation is started as a project. It is not that way. You can start with meager resources or as a shoestring budget, but can move as the success gets demonstrated. Many startup companies have come up with the bootstrapping, and that doesn't require any resources of mention. Then without sponsor, it is difficult to have strong innovation, and it requires leadership. The leadership need not again mean only the top leader. It could also be scientific leader who is guiding different ideas and different experiments. Culture, this we discussed earlier itself. Without a culture of innovation, innovation as a project cannot succeed in an organization. And innovation has to be supported with the rewards and recognition. When an innovation comes to a stage where blockbuster product is within reach, that innovator and that innovating cell or department must be rewarded. Then only there will be a multiplier effect in terms of more innovations that could take place. And the dimensions are a managed innovation process, that is traditional as well as non-traditional approaches, organizational agility, ability to take on the innovation aspects, core technologies and competencies, customer insights, industry foresight, strategic alignment, and disciplined implementation. All of these things come out as the dimensions for these 7 pillars that we have seen here. To be able to do the strategic innovation in a structured manner, we can think of a ring which will comprise all these 7 dimensions which I mentioned. Industry foresight, strategic alignment, core technological competencies, disciplined implementation, organizational readiness, and consumer customer insight. And all that can combine to become a managed innovation process. And that managed innovation process should always have creative methodology, strategic thinking. And that will only result in new growth strategies, new products and services, new ventures, new markets, new business models, new partnerships, new business practices. Then strategic innovation will not only merely look at the future, but it also will become sustainable innovation. We have to assess the innovation also. We need to have an innovation diagnostic tool which looks at the cultural strength of the organization to undertake innovation, the structural strength of the organization to run an innovation program, and a process capability to move on the innovation path both methodically and creatively. And the knowledge itself must be assessed. So there are several questions which could be constituting a part of the assessment and benchmarking exercise. Some questions are given here, but more questions can be developed as we look at innovation benchmarking depending on the industry. For example, does the organization have the knowledge and mindset? Does it allow individuals and teams to think imaginatively? Is it the task type leadership, or it is the inclusive leadership that is existing in the organization? Is it a risk-averse management, or is it a risk-seeking or risk-forgiving management? How do we treat innovative ideas when they are first offered? Are we having very rigid structures? Are we flexible in terms of exchanging people with the structures that we have? How are the allocations made? If a budget is granted, will we stick to it come what may, or will we be flexible to change the budget based on the opportunity that is staring at us because of the innovation? Are we having any supporting technologies? Do we have vendor capabilities that can support the innovation project? How is it easy to make the internal structures talk to each other? And in terms of process, do we have knowledge-driven business processes? Not just transactional process, but knowledge-driven processes that enable groups undertake innovation projects. Do we understand the merit of having a common innovation goal and letting a new innovation value chain go along whatever are our other day jobs? How do we ensure that the bread as well as the butter of our business, that is the regular throughput as well as the cream of innovation, combined in the organization setting? Many times, many innovative ideas of the R&D that are proven in the R&D laboratory are not put into place into the manufacturing systems, because the manufacturing leaders believe that their job is to get the production out and support the sales rather than lose the time in terms of experimenting with some newfangled ideas. That is a bad process, that is a bad structure, and also a bad culture. We need to avoid those kinds of things for an organization to be completely innovative. An organization that is dedicated to innovation must be having competencies and also must be having the readiness to change. There are 5 typologies of innovation which I mentioned earlier, but let's look at each of these things again. Fundamental innovation occurs when we do a first-time discovery of something new. It simulates natural bodies and phenomena. Automobile, telephone, railway engine, aircraft or ship, telephone, and a whole lot of products that were first discovered or invented. Prime fundamental innovation. Examples I have given here. Other is analog innovation. This is a follow-on to fundamental innovation. It is a steady breadwinner with a good risk-reward ratio. Successive LCD televisions with higher resolution capabilities and higher contrast ratios. Medicines with a similar structural configuration as the first-time pioneered drug, but with superior therapeutic features. So we had this movement from cathode ray tube to flat panel, LCD and plasma, to OLED and QLED, and hopefully very soon with micro LED. So that is the kind of analog innovation that has been happening, and that's happening because of the way we can get these liquid crystals be used in the flat panels screens. The DPP-4 category of anti-diabetic drugs. One was approved first, sitagliptin, in 2006, that of Merck. Several others from other companies, Novartis, Bristol Myers Squibb, AstraZeneca, Boehringer Ingelheim and Takeda followed. As of now, we have about 10 to 12 DPP-4 innovative drugs that have had US FDA approvals and patent monopoly. Next comes the integrative innovation. It combines multiple technologies into a single product. It integrates both fundamental as well as analog invention technologies. The Flex robotic system from Massachusetts startup Medrobotics can be guided by surgeons through complex twists and turns to reach hard to access body targets. It combines the benefit of a large rigid laparoscopic equipment with a flexible endoscope, and that too in a disposable flex drive, so that it becomes highly functional at the same time highly flexible. And it has got several system motors and controls to guide moving into the different parts of the body. Similarly, when you have a wireless smart wristband that performs blood assess, that development is possible only because of integration of technologies from different industrial domains, microfluidic system, then Bluetooth connectivity, smartphone analysis, and over a period of time data analytics. Accelerometers that are designed in a wristband and embedded are examples of this kind of integrative innovation. Adaptive innovation, using a different technology substrate for modernizing a domain, developing hybrid products. Example, nanotechnology reformulating known pharmaceuticals, sensor technologies ushering in autonomous mobility, tire technology determining new flow concepts of trucks and buses. DuPont added other businesses like lacquers and synthetic rubber before inventing the first polyesters. So material technology has been adapted, leveraged for developing newer material products by DuPont. It was a continuous engagement with chemical science, material science at DuPont. And chemicals and materials being some of the hotbeds of safety, DuPont also specialized as a business vertical, developing the highest safety standards out of such hazardous activities. HP had its legendary start in a garage in Palo Alto and changed a lot over the years. Started off with audio oscillators and went into a huge range of electronic test equipment products, and then became a computer-oriented company. The fifth one is the substitutive innovation. Substitute synthetic by natural or vice versa. Dismantles borders between industries. Agriculture powering the automobiles. Plants and food providing the medicines. Days powering the nights. So we have a US-based startup Sugar 2.0, which manufactures a real cane sugar-based sugar substitute that also contains soluble fiber content. We have plant-based sugars that have come up as sugar substitutes. Ethanol has been mentioned by me in earlier discussions. Any waste from plant, algae or animal could be used as a biofuel. It's a source of renewable energy. And we can have several low emission engine models that could come up with these kinds of activities. Similarly, energy banking, using day energy to power the nights. Innovation has therefore no limits, and 5 ways of looking at innovation, as I have talked about here, is another important framework to look at innovation. And innovation exists in companies. Even in companies which have failed, innovation exists. But companies have not been able to move with the times in terms of capitalizing on their innovative strengths. Most famous example being Kodak. It was focusing so much on its cash cow business, photographic film, that it didn't see the market getting disrupted by digital cameras. Although it had the technical depth and individual creativity to develop a new innovative digital camera, it completely ignored that idea and even the prototype. So Kodak met the fate of decline and eventual bankruptcy. Nokia was the leader in cellular phones, but it refused to recognize the changing trends in terms of Apple and Android software becoming superior operating systems for mobile phones. Nokia kept focusing on hardware rather than on software and integration of software and hardware. So it lost out and had to exit. Hummer was taken over by General Motors. Hummer had great brand equity as a very strong and sturdy machine. But under General Motors as well, Hummer didn't succeed because the brand was identified with certain features that were not seen environmentally friendly, nor was the product fuel efficient. So it didn't see success despite the huge resources which General Motors had. Xerox was an inventor of desktops. This is an example which we considered earlier. It came up with several innovations in computer user interface. It also came up with its own computers, but it didn't move into that business because it downplayed the importance of that business and let the initiative slip to other companies such as IBM and Apple. BlackBerry was so proud of its security encrypted software that it felt its role in business communication being unchallenged. But the moment other companies be it Apple or Samsung, broke that monopoly of encryption. BlackBerry became less important to the business users. It also became less important the moment other companies came up with more communicative, more media centric, and more touchscreen based devices. So the USB was no longer necessary, and BlackBerry did not develop the USBs which others started having. So that led to the failure. So first innovation always failed because the innovation was not updated. That's why I said innovation is not a destination, it is a continuous journey. Blockbuster similarly failed, and Netflix took over whatever Blockbuster wanted to do. So these are the examples to understanding that innovation is not a destination, innovation is a journey, and innovation requires certain skills that we have discussed, certain mindsets that we have discussed, and certain organizational competencies, assets, structures, processes that we have discussed. And if we are able to implement that approach both as individuals and as organizations, we will be creative and innovative and make a difference to the society, to our organizations, and to ourselves. These are the notes relating, and thank you so much for your attention.